The adopted daughter my dad brought home was twisted from a young age. Even though I tried hard to teach her during the day about the core values of socialism, she would sneak onto my bed at night. Wearing black silk stockings, she would step on my face. Her voice carried madness. "Stinky little brother, who do you love the most?" Later, I went to a good buddy for advice. Encouraged by him, I confessed to the Siwin before the college entrance exam, but she coldly rejected me on the spot. As a result, I failed the exam due to emotional distress and was kicked out by my parents. Meanwhile, my good buddy relied on his good guy image to marry my sister Yang. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the time before the exam. Even though I had already been rejected, I couldn't help but smile. This time, I don't want to suffer for love again. I just want to study hard and get into Shinny University. Live a free and unrestrained life. Only half an hour left before the college entrance exam. My adoptive sister came looking for me. "I'll treat what happened yesterday as a joke. Focus on your exam now. 2 months from now, I'll be waiting for you at Southwest National Defense University." I turned around and looked at the Siwin in uniform, with a cold and serene face, a slender waist and long legs, graceful yet valiant. Seeing I said nothing, she frowned deeply. Only then did I snap back to reality. I quickly picked up my pen case. Time is almost up. I'm going to take the exam now. Graduated and certified in 4 nights. Who would have thought the clingy brother could be so carefree? I didn't care about the Siwin's scrutinizing gaze. I hailed a cab and headed to the test site to give it another go. I didn't want to keep chasing after the Siwin, only to live a wandering life. This time, I want to seize the opportunity and succeed. Get into a good university and live a life of freedom. When I finished the exam and walked out of the hall, the sun was about to set. Reporters waiting outside rushed over. Reporters scrambled to interview this year's exam takers. I tried to avoid them, but a microphone was shoved in front of me. "Comrade Lucchese, we heard you were rejected after confessing yesterday. Did that affect your exam today?" Before I could answer, a lively figure emerged from the crowd. It was Yichin in a white shirt, with short hair. "Stop asking," he said. "Kay's confessed the day before the college exam and was rejected. He is in a bad state." The familiar Huarur and those unbearable memories flooded my mind again. In my past life, everything I suffered was thanks to this so-called good buddy. He was the one who confessed to me. He was the one who exposed everything. He was the one who caused me to be thrown out by my parents. Later on, I saw Yichin proudly standing next to the Siwin. At that moment, I finally realized the reason he did all of this was because he also liked the Siwin, and my tragic life was just paving the way for his love story. Now that I have a second chance, I pushed Yichin away as he spoke, and calmly faced the reporters. Liking someone isn't wrong. Neither is confessing, but none of that will affect me. Not this exam. I'm confident I'll succeed. Thank you to the sunset for shining on me in this moment. My shadow, reflected by the rays, was accompanied by the engine's hum. I walked in the direction of home, the harbor from my past life, that I dreamed of returning to countless times in the middle of the night. "Kaze is back." Suddenly, a familiar and kind voice rang out. I looked up and saw my father standing under the big pagoda tree, where he used to wait for me after school when I was little. Lu Hu looked at his son in front of him. He hesitated for a moment, then said, "About what you told Siwin yesterday. I heard it all. I didn't dare let your mom find out. You foolish child, Siwin. But your sister." I froze, looking at my father's worried eyes. A wave of bitterness surged in my heart. In my past life, confessing to the Siwin brought harsh criticism from others, and my parents were caught in a storm of public opinion. Overnight, their hair turned white. Looking at my father walking ahead, I ran up and put my arm around his shoulder. "Dad, it was my mistake, confusing reliance for love. From now on, I'll only treat the Siwin as a sister." The worry on Lufu's face finally eased. The father and son walked into the courtyard. Just as we opened the door, we saw the Siwin standing right at the entrance. Father patted me on the shoulder and said, "Go on in." The sunset tilted, spilling over the Siwin's serene, dust-free face. Our eyes met, and neither spoke for a while. After a moment, I smiled and broke the silence. "Sis, my nonsense yesterday must have worried you. I had a brain freeze. Let me apologize. Don't take it to heart. From now on, we'll be family for life." The Siwin listened to my calm and composed explanation, but an inexplicable anger rose in her heart. Yesterday he held her hand and confessed, and overnight his attitude completely changed. Did he truly let go of his inappropriate feelings, or was he playing hard to get? The Siwin looked at me and said calmly, "It's good you think that way. The college entrance exam is a turning point in life. Your mind should stay focused." I kept nodding with a smile. The Siwin brought out a campus brochure from the room and handed it to me. She said, "Every year, the admission score for Southwest University increases. You need to give it your all to get into your dream school." As I looked down and saw it was a Southwest University recruitment poster, my smile froze for a second. But I didn't say anything. In my past life, my heart was set on chasing the Siwin, so I naturally aimed for the university closest to her, Southwest University. In the end, I didn't win her over and lived a miserable life. Now that I finally have another chance, this time, I'm determined to choose what I truly love. Xinghai University. I watched the Siwin's back as she returned to her room, but in the end, didn't mention wanting to change my school choice. After all, we'll both live our own lives in the future. No need to talk about it now. I hugged the brochure and returned to my room, turned on the radio, and started reviewing. I immersed myself in subjects I was truly interested in. I didn't come out until dinner. Our family finally gathered around the table again. In my last life, because of rumors, I was too ashamed to come home. Like a beggar, Wandering around this was what I longed for in my past life. Thinking about it, I felt touched and a bit emotional. Case, what are you thinking about? Did the exam not go well? Mom added a piece of egg to my bowl, asking worriedly. I shook my head and answered with a faint smile. No, that's good. Mom was immediately overjoyed. As long as you're okay. If you can go to Southwest University, your sister is working in the military over there too. She can look after you. My hand paused on the chopsticks. Mom didn't notice and continued. Your father and I are getting old. Once you're in college and busy with your studies, you won't be able to come home often. If your sister's there, we'll feel at ease. The words caught in my throat. Still, I didn't speak them out loud. After this summer, I'll turn 18. I'll take care of myself. Mom, Dad, don't worry. After dinner, I wanted to help Mom clean up the dishes, but she shooed me off to take a shower early. Drying my hair as I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw a familiar figure in the courtyard. The Siwon spoke in a calm voice. During dinner earlier, you seemed like you had something to say. My hand paused as I dried my hair. In my past life, I followed the Siwon around like a little tail. While she was solely focused on studying, she only wanted to become a deputy officer and fulfill Uncle Yi's mission to defend the nation. She never even noticed the person tagging along behind her. But this time, she actually noticed something was off about me. I smiled softly and said nothing. It's just that thinking about leaving home makes me a little reluctant. The Siwon looked at her younger brother, who was half a head taller than her. For some reason, he suddenly seemed a bit unfamiliar. I quietly gazed at the starry night sky. It might be hard to find such peace again in the future to enjoy it. A teacher once said, after entering college, your hometown no longer has spring or autumn, only summer and winter. The older you get, the fewer times you return home. Neither of us said anything more. We fell into silence. Just then, Mom came over from the kitchen and said casually, the matchmaker came to see me today. She suggested a match between you and that boy from the Yin family, and Yichin. How about meeting him before you head off to the army? The Siwon shifted slightly, then nodded in agreement. Okay, you can arrange it. Lumu smiled at once. Great, I'll go inform the matchmaker now. We'll set up the meeting with Yichin in the next couple of days. That boy is reliable and familiar to us. If it works out, let's settle it. When you're in the army later on, you'll have someone to take care of you. After Mom left, I saw that the Siwon was about to leave as well. Thinking of Yichin's vicious nature in my past life, I spoke up, sis. And Yichin isn't as simple as he seems. Be careful during tomorrow's meeting. The Siwon frowned silently and looked at me. Case, you've really changed. Yichin is your best friend. You shouldn't slander him like this. Her door slammed shut behind her. I stood where I was. Why didn't I notice in my past life how much she defended in Yichin? A hint of helplessness crossed my mind. Looks like I was just worrying for nothing. Forget it. Whoever ends up around her in the future, it's no longer my concern. The next morning, after breakfast, I double-checked my exam permit and pens, then headed to the test site. Once the papers were handed out, the tension on my face finally eased a little. Last night, I made a guess on the essay topic, and luckily, I got it right. This time, I'm confident I can perform beyond expectations. I'll get a great score. I smiled with certainty and determination, then started answering the questions at full speed. Time passed little by little. The bell rang for submitting the paper. All the subjects were finally over. I walked out of the exam room, stretched lazily, and felt completely relaxed. In a great mood, I returned to the village. Just as I reached the entrance, I noticed everyone was looking at me with strange expressions. I had only taken a few steps when those nasty and humiliating words pierced straight into me. That's the Liu family boy, right? He actually confessed to his own sister the other day. How can a morally corrupt person like him be accepted by any university? The Liu family raised such a shameless son. Their ancestors must have picked the wrong burial site. If it were my son, I'd beat him to death. Some people really are thick-skinned, shaming our Fengyang village and still have the nerve to stay here. Hearing all this, I felt like I was plunging into an icy abyss. It was as if I had fallen back into the nightmare of my past life. Back then, after confessing to the Siwon, the whole village found out overnight. At that time, my mind went completely blank. I was utterly humiliated. By the time I wanted to explain, it was already too late. Nothing I said could fix it. Eventually, even my parents were scolded. Parents are at fault for not teaching their son properly. I clenched my fists tightly at my sides, turned around, stood tall, and faced everyone. I loudly declared, everyone, the Siwon and I are not related by blood. There's nothing immoral about it. Liking someone is not a crime in itself. I was just young and didn't know how to tell dependence from real feelings. But now I've figured it out. No matter who the Siwon marries in the future, I'll send them my blessings. But if anyone dares spread rumors again behind our backs, then don't blame me if I report you for slander. The people around me were stunned by my imposing presence and fell silent. I walked home with a light step. As soon as I entered, I saw Mom coming out of the kitchen with a dish. Everything's ready. We'll eat once your sister gets back. I took the plate from her and casually asked, where did Sis go? Lumu smiled brightly. Your sister finally came to her senses. She's going on a date with Yichin tomorrow. So, she went to town to buy some makeup and dress up. I listened quietly, feeling not much at all. The only thing that surprised me was how much the Siwon seemed to value in Yichin. When the last dish was served, the Siwon also came back, carrying several shopping bags in her hands. Why do you buy so much? Lumu asked with a smile. The Siwon replied, some of it is for you and Dad. Since I'm leaving soon, I wanted to buy something for you. You silly child, you just started working. You should be saving your money for the future. Mom doesn't need these things. Listening to their back and forth conversation, I remained silent, just quietly eating my favorite braised pork. After dinner, I got up and went back to my room. As soon as I entered, I saw a photo frame on my desk. A picture of me and the Siwon, looking at the two smiling faces in the photo. I couldn't help but recall the past. Ever since Dad brought the Siwon home, she had always treated me well. When I was 10, I caught a cold from getting soaked in the rain. She used a hot towel to help lower my fever. At 15, I got lost on the back mountain. The Siwon searched for me all night and carried me home. But later, she joined the military, and our relationship grew distant. Now, the Siwon is about to get married. She's starting a new family, and I'm going to Tsinghua University. These memories will eventually fade. I suppressed all my emotions and took out a cardboard box from the closet. I packed away everything related to the Siwon, including the photo of us together. I placed the packed box to the side, planning to throw it all away the next day. The next morning, I woke up and stepped out with the box. Just as the door across from me opened, the Siwon had shed her usual military uniform and was wearing a brand new dress. She glanced at what I was holding and asked calmly, "What are you carrying?" "Some study materials I used before and some old childhood toys. I plan to donate them to the kids at the orphanage," I replied calmly. The Siwon nodded without asking further and headed straight out. But just as she reached the door, she turned back and added, "Don't forget to tell Mom I won't be back for dinner tonight." After watching her walk out the courtyard, I looked again at the top of the box, the photo frame of the two of us, face down. The corners of my mouth twitched slightly. How indifferent must the Siwon be to not even notice that it was the only photo of the two of us together? After breakfast, I went out to town by bus, planning to buy some things I'd need for university. I browsed from the north end to the south end of town, checked out several bookstores, and finally found some books introducing Tsinghua University. Then as I passed by a pharmacy, I remembered hearing Mom coughing a bit last night. So I bought some banlangen and syrup. Looking at the bags of stuff I had, I got ready to head back to the village. Just as I passed a gold shop, I saw the familiar figures, and Yichin and the Siwon walking out of the store side by side. Kaze simply responded calmly, "I just came to buy a few things." A hint of smugness flashed across Yichin's face. He continued smiling and said that he and Siwon had successfully gone on a blind date. They would be getting married soon. "You don't mind, do you?" While talking, he kept flipping his hand back and forth, intentionally showing off the watch on his wrist. I didn't look closely. I calmly replied, "I don't mind, since I had decided to stay away from them. Whatever happened to them no longer concerned me." And Yichin froze for a moment. He didn't expect such an indifferent response from me. He felt a bit embarrassed. He forced a smile and deliberately said to the woman beside him, "We'll be family from now on. Siwon's brother is also my brother." The Siwon looked at Yichin gently and nodded. I just smiled faintly. After what happened in my past life, I already knew Yichin's true nature. In this life, I want nothing more to do with him. I would never consider him a friend again. And Yichin's smile grew even wider. "Case, Siwon, and I still have some other shopping to do. Why don't you come with us? I've finished, so I'll head back first." I rejected them without a second thought and got in the car to go home. The Siwon stood there watching me leave. Her eyes were silent, dark, and conflicted. In the end, she said nothing. After I got home, I gave my mom the banlangen and supplements, then went back to my room. I sat down at the desk and eagerly opened a book introducing Tsinghua University. I was drawn in by the cultural heritage of the university. Time flew by, and it was soon dark. Then there was a knock at the door. I got up to open it and saw the Siwon standing outside. "I saw your lights were still on. Why aren't you asleep yet?" I softly replied, "I'm just about to sleep." The Siwon looked at the distant man before her and suddenly frowned. She felt that I had been noticeably colder toward him lately. This made her feel an inexplicable sense of frustration. She casually glanced around and noticed a corner of the desk was empty. "Where did the photo frame on your desk go?" I turned around and looked. A lie slipped out. I accidentally broke it earlier, so I took it to get fixed. For some reason, after hearing this, the Siwon actually felt the noise in her chest quiet down a bit. Then get some rest. Good night." After saying good night, she turned and went into her room. In my previous life, I never dared to lie to the Siwon, because she could always tell. But now, this casual lie, the Siwon didn't notice at all. I gave a self-mocking smile, and then closed the door and went to bed. In the following days, I did nothing but read and wait for the exam results. As for the Siwon, she was out early and back late every day, spending time with Yichin to build their relationship. Days passed like flowing water. Finally, June 24th, the day the Gaokao results were released, I went to school early that morning to check my exam results. Just as I arrived at the gate, a black car pulled up beside me. "Lucas, you're here too. Check your results too." I was going to avoid it, but hearing someone call me, I turned to look. A sweet-looking girl stepped out of the car, a slight smile at the corner of her lips. I thought for a moment it seemed to be Wen Qianyu, a girl from my class. Wen Qianyu was quite prominent, a child of a high-ranking official. but we hadn't spoken much before. So we weren't really close. I nodded politely. When Qianyu didn't mind my reserved attitude, she cheerfully stepped forward. Let's go in together. The two of us walked into the old-style office. Then, I received my score sheet. Although I had estimated my score, I still felt a bit nervous at this moment. I took a deep breath to calm my racing heart. I opened the score report and looked down at the total score at the bottom. What caught my eye was the black and white text showing a score of 690. I finally relaxed my tense nerves. I had checked myself. The admission scores for Tsinghua and Peking University in previous years were all around 670. This score is enough to get into Tsinghua or Peking. I'm grateful to Teacher Wang. I wanted to hurry home and share this great news with my parents. But I waited, and no bus came. Fortunately, when Qianyu gave me a ride since it was on the way. When I got home and got out of the car, I saw the Siwon walking out of the yard, arm in arm. With Siwon and Yichin, I quickly looked away and apologized to Wen Qianyu in the driver's seat. Wen Qianyu still wore a bright smile. Lucas, if you really want to thank me, come to my birthday party in a few days. I paused and smiled. After Wen Qianyu left, I was just about to go inside when Yichin exaggeratedly spoke up. Case. That was Wen Qianyu just now, right? Are you two dating? She's known to be a playgirl, a notorious rich daughter. Dating her probably won't end well for you. I frowned. Just as I was about to speak, the Siwon's scolding voice interrupted. Yichin isn't wrong. People from families like hers, we're just not the same kind. Don't associate with her anymore. Besides, you're still young. Mind your boundaries. Don't go out and mess around with people casually. Hearing her words, I felt very uncomfortable inside. I was just getting a ride home from a classmate. How did that become messing around? What right does the Siwon have to say that about me? I looked at her intently, and the words slipped out instinctively, sis. I'm already an adult. Who I befriend is my own choice. After saying that, I walked straight into the yard. The Siwon stood still, staring at my door, her expression darkening. It wasn't until Yichin reminded her that she came back to her senses. I didn't care how she reacted. That night, after telling my parents the score, the next thing was filling out the college preferences. To avoid being discovered, I specifically picked a day when the Siwon wasn't home. I went to the school library to use the computer to submit my preferences. A few days later, I returned the books to the library. On the way home, I ran into Wen Qianyu and her close group of girlfriends. I was just going to say hi and leave. But suddenly Wen Qianyu asked, Lucas, want to go skating? Before I could answer, her friends started teasing from beside her. When the birthday girl wants to go skating today. That's when I realized it was Wen Qianyu's birthday. I didn't want to embarrass her. So just like that, a group of us went to the biggest skating rink in town. Seeing me frozen in place, Wen Qianyu walked over with a pair of skates. Never skated before? Don't worry, I'll teach you. Okay, I nodded. The two of us changed into skates and headed to the edge of the rink. Unexpectedly, on the other side, I saw the Siwon and Yichin on the rink. It surprised me a bit. I didn't expect the usually serious the Siwon would come to the skating rink with Yichin. I calmly greeted her, sis. Wen Qianyu beside me was briefly stunned, then followed up with a greeting. Hello, everyone. I'm Wen Qianyu. The Siwon just gave Wen Qianyu a cold glance. She was about to say something, when suddenly music started playing in the skating rink. Those who had been resting started skating freely again. The atmosphere became lively again, and Yichin, full of energy, pulled the Siwon toward the rink. Siwon, it's starting. Let's go, hurry up. The Siwon, whatever she was about to say, had to be swallowed. She had no choice but to follow Yichin. I smiled faintly and headed to the other side with Wen Qianyu. After all, it was my first time skating, so I was still a bit scared. So, Wen Qianyu held my hand and slowly guided me. While skating with me, Wen Qianyu taught me some important tips. Under Wen Qianyu's guidance, I gradually learned the technique. I asked Wen Qianyu to let go, so I could try skating forward on my own. But I realized I had overestimated myself. Just a couple steps after letting go, I couldn't control myself and started falling forward. Luckily, Wen Qianyu reacted quickly and pulled me back in one swift motion. The next moment, our bodies were pressed tightly together. I could feel her breath. I felt a little uneasy and was about to get up when I caught sight, not far away, of Yichin holding the Siwon around the waist. Bending over slightly, Wen Qianyu saw my expression change and asked if I was scared. Do you want to take a break? I nodded, and we went to the rest area. Wen Qianyu had just opened her mouth to ask how I was, but unexpectedly my skate slipped. I lost balance and fell straight toward Wen Qianyu. She instinctively reached out to catch me. My arms wrapped around her waist instinctively. The two of us collided hard, even closer than before. I could even feel how soft she was. My heart skipped a beat. Just as I steadied myself and was about to thank her, the Siwon's angry voice came from the side. What are you two doing? Wen Qianyu and I slowly separated, and there stood the Siwon, glaring coldly at me and Wen Qianyu. Lucas, in broad daylight, you're hugging a girl in public? Do you even know what you're doing? Do you have any self-respect? Come home with me, the Siwon said as she grabbed my wrist. My wrist hurt, sis. You misunderstood. Just then, and Yichin suddenly collapsed to the ground nearby, crying out in pain. The Siwon's attention immediately shifted to Yichin. She crouched down and asked what happened, and Yichin held his foot and said, I got accidentally bumped just now. And I think I twisted my ankle. As soon as the Siwon heard that, she immediately took off her own skates, helped him up and said, I'll take you to the hospital. Before leaving, she only left me with one sentence. You go home by yourself. I stood there, watching Yichin look back at me with a smug expression. I immediately realized that Yichin had done it on purpose. But the Siwon didn't notice at all. And once again, I was sure of one thing. In the Siwon's heart, Yichin would always matter more than me. Just a moment ago, she was scolding me for being too close to another girl. The next moment, she left me behind for Yichin and let me be alone with another girl. Now she didn't seem to care anymore. Back in my room, I just felt completely exhausted and didn't want to move. I thought I'd lie down and rest for a bit. At that moment, a man's voice came from outside. Is anyone home? Excuse me, is this Lucchese's home? I quickly walked out and saw a mailman pushing an old-style bicycle, stopping at the gate. He had a document envelope in his hand. I'm Lucchese. Is there a delivery for me? Yes, the mailman said, handing over the envelope. I couldn't wait to open it. And when I saw it was the admission letter from Tsinghua University, my heart was finally at ease. Everything was finally settled. I felt overjoyed and had a really good sleep. When I opened my eyes, the smell of food filled the air while the whole family was eating. The Siwon came home too. Mom asked, is Bikin okay? Nothing serious, right? The Siwon calmly replied, he's fine. Just a mild sprain. I already took him home. Hearing her words, I just quietly ate my food. I didn't say anything. At that moment, the Siwon spoke again, Mom, Dad. Someone from the military unit asked me to end my vacation early and return. I'll be leaving tomorrow. Though a bit surprised, Dad and Mom Lu still nodded in support. They looked slightly disappointed and said, then the wedding with Yichin might not be settled anytime soon, for some reason. The Siwon instinctively glanced at me, seeing me eating silently, showing no reaction. She suddenly felt a bit stifled and replied after a pause, postpone it. The end of the year isn't too late. Dad and Mom Lu thought for a bit, then nodded in agreement. The Siwon looked at me again and blurted out, your admission letter should be arriving soon too, right? They can also apply to Southwest University. You can go together. It'll be easier to take care of each other. Since you're both going to the same university anyway, you might as well travel together. Dad and Mom Lu both agreed eagerly. I thought of the acceptance letter I received that afternoon and hesitated whether I should speak up. But then Mom Lu continued, turning to the Siwon. Once Kase arrives in the Southwest, please look after your brother more. I'll feel more at ease. Hearing all this, I held a bite of food in my mouth, but ultimately said nothing. Better not worry, Mom. And keep her up all night. I'll tell them after I get there. The next morning, the whole family woke up early and stood at the door to send the Siwon off. Thinking of the farewell, I still took the initiative to speak, sis. Take care on the road. The Siwon nodded, looked at me, and began lecturing. You don't really understand what kind of person Wen Qianyu is. In the future, you should be more cautious, and school is starting soon. It's time to focus again. Focus more on your studies. Don't fall behind once you get to Southwest University. I listened in silence, neither agreeing nor speaking. But the Siwon kept looking at me, as if waiting for me to respond. I could only nod perfunctorily. Got it. Let her think what she wants. I didn't want to say anything more. The Siwon opened the car door, ready to get in. Suddenly, Yichin's voice came from a distance. Siwon. The Siwon quickly walked over to help him. Your foot is still hurt. Why did you come? You're leaving for the military today. I came to see you off. I'm not a burden. The two exchanged parting words. I turned around and went into the house without looking back. The Siwon, for some reason, suddenly turned to glance at my back. She felt an inexplicable anxiety in her heart, as if she might never see Lucchese again. She found herself ridiculous for thinking that. Before long, once he goes to Southwest University, they'll meet again anyway. After exchanging a few words with Yichin, the Siwon got into the military jeep and drove off. That day passed by especially fast. In the evening, I returned to my room early and began packing my things. I was leaving here early tomorrow morning. Before reporting to Tsinghua University, I had done a lot of research on the capital and the school. I knew the winters in the capital could be cold, so I packed a few extra warm clothes. While organizing my desk drawer, I unintentionally saw the family photos inside. One was taken when I was very young. That was before the Siwon had joined the family. In the photo, it was just the three of us. The other one was taken with the Siwon a couple of years ago. The family photo had gone from 3 different people, but I only took the photo of the 3 of us and packed it into my suitcase. After packing up, I went to wash up and then went to bed. That night, I slept soundly, without a single dream. The next day, just before dawn, I left a letter in the living room, then left with my suitcase. Everything around was quiet. My parents were still asleep. Before leaving, I looked back at their bedroom. Just one glance, and all the words in my heart became one sentence. Mom, Dad, please take care of yourselves. Then I walked out of the yard with my head held high. Half an hour later, I was on a train to the capital. Images of my past life flashed in my mind, being kicked out of the village, utterly humiliated, treated like a rat that everyone wanted to beat. In this life, I finally didn't repeat that fate. This time, I will live for myself. The morning sun slowly rose over the horizon. I believe what awaits me ahead will be full of light. With a rumbling sound, the train started moving. Because I had gotten up so early, I started to feel drowsy. Half asleep, half awake. I felt like I was leaning on someone's shoulder. I instantly woke up. When I looked to the side, I saw a familiar profile. Wen Qianyu, why are you here? When Qianyu turned and looked at me, you're awake. Of course, just like you, I lost my guardian. But what a coincidence you got into Tsinghua too. I was quite surprised. When Qianyu smiled and nodded, just like that, the two of us traveled to Tsinghua University together. Meanwhile, Dad and Mom Lu woke up as usual and started making breakfast in the kitchen. The table was set, but I still hadn't come out of my room. Mom Lu wiped her hands and went to wake me up. But she noticed the door wasn't closed. She pushed it open, only to find all my usual things were gone. Even the bed was neat and tidy, but I was nowhere to be seen. Mom Lu felt a sudden panic. She immediately spotted a letter placed on the desk. She shouted in a panic, "Old Lu, come quickly, your son is gone." Lu Hu rushed over as soon as he heard the commotion. "What do you mean he's gone?" As soon as I came in, I saw Lu Mu handing him a letter. She urged, "I found this on the desk. You recognize more characters than I do. Hurry and open it." Lu Hu looked down at the envelope. On it was written, "To Mom and Dad." He quickly opened it and took out the letter. It read, "Mom and Dad, by the time you read this letter, I should already be on the train to the capital. I never told you, but I received an admission letter from Tsinghua University, not Southwest University. Forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye, but please don't worry. I'll take good care of myself. Once I've settled down at Tsinghua, I'll call or write to you. Don't worry, Kaze." After reading it, a trace of surprise flashed in Lu Hu's eyes. Kaze went to Tsinghua. He's already on the train now. Mother Lu was stunned. Isn't Tsinghua the same as Southwest? Even Saiwa thought he was going to Southwest. What is this child thinking? No, I have to call Saiwa. She turned to leave as she spoke, but Lu Hu stopped her. Kaze has already gone to Tsinghua. There's no point telling Siwon now. Kaze said once he's settled in, he'll call us. We can ask him then. Lu Mu thought for a moment and had no choice but to agree. Meanwhile, in the Southwest Army, the Siwon, the captain of the elite training camp, was busy training a group of rookie soldiers. Suddenly, she felt a strange anxiety in her heart, as if she was losing something. Something important. The Siwon frowned, and the image of me suddenly surfaced in her mind. She shook her head. Kaze is about to come to Southwest University. We'll see each other again very soon. How can I possibly lose him? He completely forgot that I said I wanted to go to Tsinghua. After the Siwon figured it out, she adjusted her mindset and focused on completing her training tasks. After training ended, the Siwon went to the market to shop. Lu Kaze is coming, so he shouldn't come empty-handed. Thinking of getting Lu Kaze some daily essentials and supplies. After carrying a bunch of stuff back to the family housing, she ran into the army wife next door. She looked at what the Siwon was carrying and joked, "Captain, you bought so many household items. Is your brother-in-law coming to join the unit?" The Siwon was stunned, but she didn't refute it. Instead, she felt a strange hint of joy in her heart. Days passed one by one. Finally, it was the start of the semester at Southwest University. The Siwon specially asked for leave from her superiors and drove to Southwest University. She stood by the side, her eyes constantly scanning the students entering through the gate, afraid of missing anyone. At that moment, she thought she saw a familiar figure and was about to go forward when a surprised voice called out behind her, "Siwon, are you waiting here just for me?" The Siwon turned around and saw Yichin carrying luggage. Smiling brightly at him, she looked around and realized Yichin was alone. So she asked, "Why are you alone? Didn't Kaze come with you?" A glimmer flashed in Yichin's eyes. Surprised, he said, "You didn't know. Kaze already went to Tsinghua with Wen Qianyu." The Siwon was completely stunned. She heart felt like it had plunged into an abyss. Her mind went blank. No way. How could that be? Kaze always wanted to go to Southwest University. How could he suddenly? The Siwon's words were cut off, because she remembered what I had said to her before. "Sis, I want to go to Tsinghua to study linguistics. I want to be a teacher. That suits me better." She had always thought. She thought all those were just Lu Kaze's jokes, things he said when he was close to Yichin. But in fact, those turned out to be his true thoughts. And he had already made them come true. He actually kept it a secret, left for Tsinghua without anyone knowing. The Siwon couldn't accept this outcome. She had to find Kaze and get to the bottom of it. She turned and walked toward her car, but Yichin grabbed her. "Siwon, I just got here. I don't know anyone or any place here. Can you stay with me?" But before he could finish speaking, the Siwon brushed his hand away. "Handle it yourself. I've got something to do. I'm leaving now." With that, she got in the car and drove off, and Yichin looked at the departing car with frustration. He clenched his teeth, feeling extremely unwilling. But the next moment, he smiled again, then turned and walked into the gate of Southwest University. It's alright. Now he's the one close to the Siwon, with the advantage. Lu Kaze is already far away in the capital. From now on, no one can come between him and the Siwon. Meanwhile, after the Siwon returned to the family quarters, she quickly called the village office of Fengyang. While waiting for Lu's father or mother to answer the call, Her heart was a mess. She didn't know what kind of answer she wanted to hear. But she also knew no answer would satisfy her. Because the outcome she wanted most seemed impossible now. Just as she was lost in thought, Lumu's voice came from the other end of the line. Siwon, are you doing well in the army? The Siwon nodded. I'm fine. No need to worry. I called to ask about K's. Did he really go to Qingbai? Yes, that kid secretly left the day after you did. He only left us a letter. When Lu's mother heard that, she still felt a bit upset. The Siwon's eyes darkened. She asked again, has he contacted you since? Any phone calls or letters? Not yet. Your dad and I are still waiting to hear from him. But we should get some news in the next couple of days. Mom, if K's left a phone number or address, could you please let me know? The Siwon's voice was somewhat restrained, tinged with a trace of pleading. Lumu thought it sounded a bit strange, but didn't question it. She just nodded and said, all right, I will. I'll let you know. After the Siwon hung up the phone, she felt breathless. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't understand why Lu K's suddenly went to Qingbai. Didn't he like him? Didn't he say he wanted to always stay by his side? When Qianyu's face suddenly popped into her mind, the Siwon felt a sharp pain in her chest. Could it be that she had really fallen for Wen Qianyu? No way. These three words flashed in the Siwon's mind, startling even herself. Buried feelings that even she didn't realize she had were now starting to surface. This left the Siwon feeling lost, but she was beginning to understand her true feelings for Lu K's. At the same time, at Qingbai University, I had already completed the enrollment process. I was assigned to dorm 502 in Building 5. When I entered the dorm with my luggage, no one else was there. I was the first one to arrive. After organizing my suitcase, I thought I should call home to let them know I was safe. So I went out to find a phone booth. Just after dialing the number, I heard Lumu shouting on the other end. Lu K's, you've got some nerve. How dare you sneak off to Qingbai behind our backs? I held the receiver away from my ear. After a while, I brought it back. Mom, I told you before, I wanted to go to Qingbai. Lumu immediately responded. Even so, you should have told us first. You can't just leave without saying a word. I paused before answering. I'm sorry, Mom. Sorry, I said. And Lu's mother didn't seem so angry anymore. She asked me about how things were going at Qingbai. Then, as if remembering something, she asked, can you give me a phone number or address, in case we need to contact you? So I told Mom my address. When I entered the gates of Qingbai again, when Qianyu had told me, and also gave me the phone number. After I finished, I read the number aloud to Lumu. We chatted for a little while longer before hanging up. When I returned to the dorm again, there were already a few people inside. When they saw me, the guy on the bed next to mine was the first to greet me. Hi there, are you the roommate assigned to the bed next to mine? My name is Zhao Musheng. I smiled and nodded. Nice to meet you. I'm Lu K's. The other four also introduced themselves in turn. And just like that, all the members of dorm 500 had arrived. Zhao Musheng was an outgoing and lively guy, and also a local from the capital. He immediately opened up and started chatting. He told us all about fun places in the capital. When there's time, I can take you guys around to explore. How about during National Day? He suggested, although the others weren't from the capital. They lived fairly nearby. So they all shook their heads and said they might go home for the holiday. Finally, Zhao Musheng looked at me. You're not going home too, are you? I hesitated for a moment, thinking that I had come to Qingbai without telling the Siwon. He would definitely come looking for answers. If I went home for National Day, I might actually run into him. But I didn't really want to see him now. After thinking about it, I shook my head. No, I'm not going back for the holiday. You can take me around the capital then. Sure thing, Zhao Musheng said, smiling as he patted me on the shoulder. Then it's a deal. This year there will be a military parade. We can go watch it together. I nodded in agreement. It sounded like a great plan. I nodded again. After that, everyone in my dorm officially began their life at Qingbai University. According to tradition, every batch of new students must participate in the welcome ceremony. This time it was organized by dormitories. Each dorm had to put on a performance. Except for Zhao Musheng, the rest of us stayed in the dorm to discuss what to do. Then suddenly, Zhao Musheng burst in. I know what performance our dorm should do. Everyone looked at him. We can collaborate with the girls' dorm to do a ballroom dance. As soon as he said that, no one had any objections, because they all knew how to dance, and also knew that ballroom dancing was popular among university students. Only I, who came from the countryside, didn't know how. Zhao Musheng noticed my hesitation. It's okay if you can't dance. I can teach you. In the end, I nodded reluctantly. I came to Qingbai to improve myself, to build a brighter future. So I decided to start with learning to dance. Then everyone gathered to discuss the plan. Suddenly, I thought of a question and asked Zhao Musheng, which girl's dorm are we collaborating with? Zhao Musheng slapped his forehead. Right, I almost forgot. If you're free now, let's go find them. Everyone nodded, and just as we stepped outside the dorm, someone shouted from the hallway. Is Lu K's from room 500 to hear? There's a phone call for you at the security office. I froze. Someone called me, but I just called home a couple of days ago. Could something have happened at home? I started to panic a little. I told Zhao Musheng, I'm heading to the security office first. I'll come find you later. Zhao Musheng nodded, okay. We'll probably be at the gym or cafeteria. Got it. I nodded and ran toward the security office. I picked up the receiver on the side and held it to my ear. Mom, Dad, Did something happen at home, Case? It's me. When I heard the voice from the other end, I was stunned. That familiar voice left me stunned. I didn't expect the Siwon to contact me so soon. I stayed silent for a while before speaking. Sis. On the other end, the Siwon heard my voice over the phone. The agitation in her heart seemed to subside. But thinking about what I had done before, her frustration deepened. She couldn't control her voice, which carried a trace of anger. Case, don't you have anything you want to say to me? There was silence on the line. It made the Siwon even more uneasy. Just as she was about to speak again, she heard my voice. Sis, I've already said everything I wanted to say before. I'm already at Xingbei now. You don't need to worry about me anymore. From now on, you and Yicheng can just be happy together. Hearing that, the Siwon felt a tightness in her chest. So it's because of him that he didn't finish. Because I interrupted him. That's not important anymore, sis. Even though we're siblings, we each have our own lives. I've already found my goal in life. You don't have to worry. Hearing the calmness in my voice, the Siwon felt uncomfortable. She realized that the boy on the other end had already distanced herself from her, but she was also gradually realizing the feelings she had buried deep down inside. Yet she didn't know how to express them. Since she said nothing more, I didn't want to linger on the past either. So I spoke again. Sis, I still have things to do. I'll hang up now. Goodbye. And without waiting for a response, I hung up the phone first. I stood there for a moment, combing my emotions, then turned and left the security office, following Zhao Musheng's directions. I found them in the gym. When I arrived, I saw pairs of guys and girls practicing together. They had already started learning. When Zhao Musheng saw me, he immediately waved. Case, over here. I quickly walked over, but those girls each introduced themselves. After that, Zhao Musheng told me, I know you're not good at this, so I had left the best dancer for you. As he spoke, he looked around. His hand pointed to a girl walking toward us in the distance. That's her. I followed the direction he pointed. A slim girl in a white dress, wearing a ponytail, was walking toward us. He immediately recognized her. It was Wen Qingmian. With a slight smile in his voice, he greeted her. It's you. Wen Qianyu looked surprised to see me too. She raised an eyebrow and said, yeah, what a coincidence to run into each other here. Zhao Musheng, standing by, looked back and forth between the two of us. You two know each other. I smiled and said, yeah, we come from the same place. Zhao Musheng nodded. That's great. Since you know each other, it should be easier to work together. Then he looked at Wen Qianyu and said, I'll leave Case to you. Wen Qianyu nodded. Don't worry. When Zhao Musheng went to practice nearby, I finally spoke up a little awkwardly. Wen Qianyu, I really can't dance at all. Wen Qianyu reassured me. It's okay. Don't feel pressured. Just leave it to me. After that, Wen Qianyu started teaching me ballroom dancing step by step. She held out her hand. Put your hand on mine. Then just follow my steps. Wen Qianyu held my hand, guiding me to step forward and back. Then she had me raise my hand, and Wen Qianyu herself spun a few times along with the momentum. At that moment, my foot slipped a little, and I couldn't keep my balance. I fell backward onto the ground. I cried out in surprise. I thought I was going to fall to the ground. Frightened, I tightly shut my eyes. But after a moment, I didn't feel any pain. I even heard Wen Qianyu's voice in my ear. How long do you plan on having me hold you? I suddenly opened my eyes wide. I realized Wen Qianyu had caught me with her hands. I hadn't hit the ground. Our eyes met, and she was smiling. My ears instantly turned red. I quickly stood up and gently pushed her away. Thank you. Wen Qianyu pulled back her hand. It's nothing. Shall we continue? I nodded. This time, I was extra careful. Luckily, I didn't fall again. I let out a sigh of relief. Wen Qianyu, standing beside me, looked at me like this, and couldn't help but chuckle. You don't have to be so tense. Dancing is supposed to be fun. You need to relax and enjoy it. I nodded and said, got it. I'll try my best. Just then, Zhao Musheng came over and asked how the lesson was going. Seeing that I didn't know how to answer, Wen Qianyu spoke up. Don't worry. With me here, he won't hold the team back. I'm not worried at all. Case, don't feel any pressure. Zhao Musheng looked at me and said. I nodded with a smile and said, got it. That's enough for today. Let's go eat. As Zhao Musheng spoke, he called out to a few others and headed to the cafeteria. During the meal, Zhao Musheng suddenly remembered something and asked, Case, was that a call from your family earlier? My chopsticks paused. It was my sister. You have a sister. How old is she and where is she now? Zhao Musheng's gossip mode kicked in. He kept asking me nonstop. I found it a bit overwhelming. I didn't want to keep talking about the Siwon either. Wen Qianyu, sitting across from me, noticed my expression. She quickly changed the subject. Luke, classmate, there are only a few days left until the welcome party. You really need to keep practicing. You can come find me anytime too. I live in building 1, room for 101. Wen Qianyu added casually. Zhao Musheng didn't ask about the Siwon anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief. I quickly agreed, all right. Let's finish eating first. Then if you're free, keep teaching me. Wen Qianyu glanced at me and said, okay. After that, everyone else had things to do and left. I followed Wen Qianyu back to the gym to keep learning dance. Time passed little by little. In the blink of an eye, the welcome party arrived. When it was our turn to go on stage, I suddenly got nervous. When Qianyu, standing beside me, leaned in and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm here. If you're really nervous, just don't look at the audience while dancing. Just pretend you're still in the gym." I took a deep breath, okay. During the performance, I followed Wen Qianyu's rhythm. Stepping forward and back, spinning together, we moved in perfect sync. As I gradually relaxed, I accidentally glanced at the audience. It was packed with people. My heart suddenly panicked. My steps became chaotic. I accidentally stepped on Wen Qianyu's foot. She sensed my nervousness, quickly pulled me close and placed my hand on her waist. Her own hand rested on my neck. Her head spun with my momentum. "Just follow me, we're almost done." We were standing very close. I could even feel her breath. It made my heart beat faster. My face instantly turned red like an apple. It wasn't until thunderous applause came from below the stage, and we all stepped off together, that the redness on my face still hadn't faded. Zhao Musheng looked at me and asked strangely, "Case, why is your face so red? Don't tell me it's because when Qianyu spun around in front of you." I was a bit embarrassed, looked down and said nothing. When Qianyu next to me just smiled without saying a word. The welcome party ended smoothly. Because of the dance, I formed a deep friendship with Wen Qianyu and his dorm mates. After that, everyone focused on their studies. Aside from classes, we spent most of our time in the library. I often ran into Wen Qianyu there. Gradually, we got closer. As time passed, many people started saying we were dating. Even Zhao Musheng came to ask me, "Case, are you really dating Wen?" I was startled by the question. I quickly shook my head no. I just happen to see her often in the library. Don't spread rumors. But since even Zhao Musheng said that, others were even more likely to misunderstand. The next day, I ran into Wen Qianyu again in the library. I made sure to keep my distance from her. Unlike before, during breaks, I no longer listened to her talk about aerospace. When Qianyu was majoring in aeronautics and astronautics, she quickly noticed that I was acting strange, and immediately thought of the rumors going around. She looked at me and gently said, "Case, there's no need to care about what others think. Even if we were dating, it's no one else's business." I knew what she said made sense, but the trauma from my past life still lingered. It was because of rumors in my past life that my entire life was ruined. So now, I didn't want to fall into that kind of whirlpool again. I was about to tell Wen Qianyu that I'd rather just study in the dorm from now on. Wen Qianyu was stunned. She looked at me, frowning, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, she said nothing. After realizing how much I cared about romantic rumors, we started to deliberately limit our interactions. After a while, the gossip finally stopped. I felt relieved, and I immersed myself fully in studying. Time passed by like flowing water, and before I knew it, it was National Day. Everyone else in the dorm went home. Only Zhao Musheng and I stayed behind. Zhao Musheng told me there would be a military parade this National Day. "Let's go watch it together." Sure, the National Day parade doesn't happen every year. The last one was 5 years ago. Now that we're in the capital, we definitely have to experience it. The two of us instantly agreed, but as soon as we left the school gate, we ran into Wen Qianyu. She looked surprised to see me. "You didn't go home? Where are you headed?" Before I could answer, Zhao Musheng jumped in. "We're going to Tiananmen to watch the parade." "What a coincidence. So am I. Let's go together," she said, looking at me, as if afraid I'd say no. I nodded, and then Zhao Musheng and I got into Wen Qianyu's Lamborghini. By the time we arrived at Tiananmen, it was already packed with people. Zhao Musheng and I exchanged looks. Our eyes said, "Now what?" "Follow me. You won't see much from here," Wen Qianyu said, then took us to another place. When I stood right up front and could see the entire parade, I looked at Wen Qianyu in disbelief. I suddenly remembered hearing at school that his grandfather held a military post in the capital. No wonder he could find such a good spot. Zhao Musheng was already dumbfounded. Wen Qianyu, who asterisk are asterisk you really? How did you even get us such a spot? Wen Qianyu just shrugged nonchalantly. "It's nothing. The parade's starting." But I noticed Zhao Musheng's gaze toward Wen Qianyu had changed. There was something else mixed in now. I felt a little uneasy, but I didn't overthink it. I turned my attention to the parade instead. With the sound of salutes firing, Tiananmen Square filled with the rhythmic sound of marching footsteps, rows and rows passed right before us, looking at their high spirits and determination. I was deeply moved. My heart was surging with emotion. Then came a pair of soldiers in green military uniforms. I watched intently. Suddenly, my gaze locked onto the figure leading them, a tall and heroic silhouette. My eyes widened as I stared in disbelief. That familiar figure walked past in step. It was her, the Siwan. She actually came to the capital and even participated in the parade. For a moment, my mind was a mess. My eyes were blank. Case, did you hear what I just said?" I felt a light push on my shoulder. I snapped back to reality, then looked at Zhao Musheng. What were you thinking about just now?" I said I was a bit thirsty. "Let's go get some water." "Sure," I nodded. As I turned my head, I met Wen Qianyu's eyes, and they held a hint of scrutiny. Wen Qianyu had seen the Siwan too. And then, she immediately noticed my unusual expression. Back in Fengyang, she had already sensed something different about the two siblings. Wen Qianyu frowned, but didn't ask me directly. After all, It was my personal matter. Still, she couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. The three of us returned to school after the parade. As Zhao Mesheng and I got out, we said goodbye to Wen Canyu. We watched as she drove away. Just as I was about to head back to the dorm, I suddenly heard Zhao Mesheng say, "Case, I've decided to confess to Wen Canyu."